Hey folks, Mike Naso here with the latest on the tropics. It's 11 p.m. Thursday night, and as we get towards October, the focus of the Atlantic hurricane season will shift to the Caribbean. But out there today, we have two tropical storms, one sitting right here and the other sitting right here, and there's some interaction between the two. They are so close together that they are likely to kind of pivot around each other, and we're going to watch it over the next couple of days. The good news is, as of right now, we don't think they'll become hurricanes, and if they do, we don't think they'll hit land, at least not right now. The first storm is Tropical Storm Philippe. We've been watching it for a few days. Philippe just has been struggling. It hasn't become a hurricane. It's moving towards the west-southwest at 5, is currently at 18.3 north, 55.0 west, with winds of 45 miles per hour. Now, this west-southwest motion should continue very slowly all the way through the weekend, and then it should pivot to the north, and by Tuesday be a tropical storm, still not too far from where it is right now here, well to the north and east of the Leeward Islands. Then we have the storm to its east. This is Rina. This is Tropical Storm Rina, and Rina is at 18.4 north, 46.6 west, winds of 40 miles per hour, moving northwest at 7. So as this one moves northwest, the other one's moving to the southwest. They're pivoting around each other. That's called the Fujiwara effect. Fujiwara, he was a Japanese meteorologist who came up with the realization that storms could kind of spin around each other. And Rina should do that. It should move to the west-northwest and then eventually dissipate into a tropical depression, or maybe dissipate altogether and head north. But there is high uncertainty with both of these tracks, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Now, here's the satellite imagery. On the left side of the screen, here's the Lesser Antilles of the Caribbean. You can see Guadeloupe here. That's the one shaped like a butterfly. We have Barbados down here. These are the islands. Here is the center of Philippe. And Philippe is not looking too good. In fact, we were wondering if it was still a tropical cyclone because the environment is not that favorable. But it appears as though the center is somewhere elongated in this area, although it may be forming closer to these deep thunderstorms that are blowing up. Rina is better organized as far as the circulation. Even on this infrared satellite, you can see the center spinning there, but note the shear coming from Philippe. So there's some interaction between the two. What normally happens in a Fujiwara situation is one system will kind of move like that, and the other will move like that. They'll kind of spin around each other. And in the northern hemisphere, they move counterclockwise around each other. So it looks like Philippe's going to kind of do that southwest motion and then back north, and Rina is going to do this kind of just west-northwest motion and then north around it. So the Fujiwara effect will likely be on display. We don't often get systems this close to each other, but Philippe took his old time moving west, and this wave off Africa just developed into Rina, and so it's what we're dealing with. Now, if you're in the islands, be on the lookout just in case some of these thunderstorms or some higher swells make it your way, but the wind field should remain well away from you. Here's the spaghetti model plots for Philippe, and again, a couple of days ago, they were showing Philippe dissipating and kind of moving straight through Puerto Rico and areas of Hispaniola. I became concerned, would anything be left if it moves into the Caribbean, because this time of year, even though things aren't that favorable right now, we look for that. Although it looks now like because of Rina's development, Philippe might get a second chance at life. Because had Rina not developed, Philippe would have probably dissipated and just died out. Now that Rina formed, kind of pulling him by his collar, he'll have a chance to catch his bearings and strengthen. And some of the models make him, well, it's not a him, it's a tropical cyclone, but you know what I mean. They make Philippe, I'm trying to differentiate between Philippe and Rina, him and her. They make Philippe the dominant storm. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now, that Philippe will kind of become the dominant one, Rina will dissipate out, and then we'll see how strong Philippe can get. But the good news is it should turn. We've seen a lot of turners this year. We've seen Franklin turn out. Idalia, after it left the East Coast, turned out. Lee and Nigel turned out. We think Philippe's going to follow in their footsteps. But some of these models, the Canadian brings it over Puerto Rico. The UK mech is pretty close there to the islands. And Bermuda, you're sticking out here. So that's why we're going to watch it very carefully. The models with Rina, look at the way they loop around there and head out. That is classic Fujiwara interaction. But the Hurricane Center notes if Rina weakens more, it could move further west in the long run, so we might have to watch that just in case. Here's the spaghetti model plots of the ensembles. This is the European. Some of them do show some interaction with the islands from Philippe, but Rina stays well out. And if you notice, Philippe becomes the dominant one as it moves to the north. And that's what we're thinking right now. Here's the GFS ensemble. Same thing. Rina is very weak and moves this way, but Philippe becomes the main feature and moves to the north. So we're going to watch that. Another potential as the trophiness moves off the eastern seaboard, we're always going to watch and see if we get any kind of system that'll move off. We saw Ophelia obviously impact North Carolina just a week or so ago. Note on the GFS here, look at here in the Western Caribbean, we start to look to this area. And given that we already had a very rare event, an August hurricane, Idalia, come out of the Western Caribbean and slam into Florida, that makes me a little bit more apprehensive about the potential for development in the Western Caribbean in October or even November. So we're going to watch that very, very carefully. As far as the name list, we're making our way through. This is a very active hurricane season. Despite the El Nino we've had a lot of activity. The good news is most of it's been abnormal. Franklin took a very abnormal track. Idalia took an abnormal track. That was more like an October hurricane, not an August storm. And with the exception of Idalia and Harold, we've had very few impacts to land. We had Ophelia impact North Carolina, but now we're on Philippe and Rina. And I should note, Rina was the replacement name in 2005 after the devastation from Hurricane Rita. They changed one letter. So we're going to watch Rina. The next name is Sean. That was a replacement name in 2005 as well, that epic hurricane season from Hurricane Stan, which impacted Mexico, caused a lot of deadly flooding. And then we have Tammy, Vince, and Whitney, which was the replacement for Hurricane Wilma, which was the strongest hurricane ever recorded in the Atlantic on record. That was back in the 2005 hurricane season. Oof, talk about a season to remember. I was 17 years old, and I'm not sure I'll ever see anything like that again in my lifetime. That was quite a remarkable, epic season. That was the year of Katrina, the year of Rita, a crazy hurricane season. We might exhaust the list. There's only 4 names left, and then we get to the auxiliary list. They've scrapped the Greek alphabet for different names, and we'll see if we get there. It seems to happen more and more as we can spot more storms now on satellite than we used to even 15 or 20 years ago. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest on the tropics. We'll continue to watch Philippe and Rina as they interact. Philippe should loop around and head north. Rina should loop around and head north, but we're going to keep an eye on it, and I will talk to you next time.